They said she looked too soft to pull a trigger that far. They forgot that storms don't ask for permission. At Forward Operating Base Ravenfall, the desert sun scorched steel and sand alike. Humvees simmered in the heat. Rangers cleaned their rifles, and whispers followed one woman through it all. Staff Sergeant Aria Valen, U.S. Marine Corps Scout Sniper. 5'4". Calm eyes. A rifle case in her hand, like it was part of her. She wasn't supposed to be here. Marine Scout snipers rarely operated with Army Rangers. Fewer than a dozen women had ever passed the selection course. She was one of them. Not because someone opened a door, but because she kicked it down. 2 Rangers leaned against HESCO barriers. "Marine sniper? PR stunt," one scoffed. The other smirked until she looked at them. Not with anger, with absolute indifference. And that somehow shut them up. She grew up on the Highwind plains of Wyoming, where the wind could skin your face and silence could teach you more than words. Her father taught her to breathe with the earth, not against it. By 12, she could anchor a rifle against a storm. At 19, she joined the Marines. At 28, she had the highest long-range qualification score in her division, though still untested in real combat. Inside the ops tent, tension hummed around a single name. Faris al-Nader, bomb maker, shadow of the Khorad Valley, surrounded by civilians, too deep for a raid, too risky for an airstrike. One option remained. A ridge, a rifle, a shot across more than 2 kilometers of burning air. A voice crackled from the comms tower. "Staff Sergeant Valen, briefing room, now!" She lifted the rifle case. Dust swirled around her boots, and for the first time, no one saw a decoration walking. They saw the only person who might make the shot, if command let her take it. Before we move on, if you're still here, I want to know, where are you watching from? Vietnam, the US, Europe, or somewhere out there beyond the wire? Drop it in the comments. And if this story pulled you in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because this is only the beginning. The canvas walls of the operations tent rippled in the dry wind as Staff Sergeant Aria Valen, U.S. Marine Corps, stepped inside. The air smelled of stale coffee, sweat, and something heavier. Doubt. Around the map table stood the Corps of Task Force Orion, Captain Elias Monroe, Army Mission Commander, Staff Sergeant Reed Granger, Army Rangers Team Leader, Sergeant Lucas Hale, Ranger Sniper, Barrett M107 resting beside him. A red-circled compound flickered on the map, deep in the Khorad Valley. Monroe began without ceremony. Target, Faris al-Nader. Confirmed on site. Civilians nearby. Airstrike is denied. Artillery won't reach. Only option is a precision shot. Granger added, arms folded. From the ridge, it's over 2 clicks. Crosswinds change every 30 seconds. Miss. Once. He vanishes. Monroe's eyes shifted to Aria. Staff Sergeant Valen, your training records are exceptional, but no real combat shot at this range. She didn't flinch. Sir, with respect, training doesn't mean unready. Granger stepped in, voice firm but measured. Hale has 2 confirmed sniper kills past 2 kilometers. Valen's are all range scores. That's the difference. Monroe exhaled slowly. HQ made it clear. Marine Command doesn't want their only active female scout sniper risked unless necessary. This is a joint Army-led operation. Hale stays on the rifle. Valen, you spot. If conditions shift, you take over. Understood? Aria's jaw tightened, but her answer was steady. Understood, sir. Hale didn't look at her. Granger did, long enough to make it sting. The briefing ended in silence and stiff salutes. Outside, the wind from the valley hit her face, hot, restless, impatient. They trusted her eyes, not her trigger finger. Not yet. They left the wire long before dawn. 8 silhouettes moving into the desert. No headlights, no words, only the crunch of boots and the quiet click of safeties off. Staff Sergeant Aria Valen, Marine Scout Sniper, walked forth in the column. Ahead of her, Staff Sergeant Reed Granger, leading with Ranger precision. Just behind him, Sergeant Lucas Hale, Barrett M1007 on his shoulder, jaw clenched tight. 10 minutes earlier, they'd been in Marine territory. Now they were past the last perimeter patrol, out of drone overwatch, stepping into the kind of no-man's land where entire squads had vanished. An hour in, Granger's fist shot up. Everyone froze. Kneel. Silence. Hale whispered. Tripwire, 11 o'clock. Thin copper glinted beneath a rock, an IED trigger linked to a buried mortar shell. Someone exhaled a quiet curse. No panic, just practiced fear. 2 Rangers crawled forward, disarmed it in 30 seconds that felt like a year. They moved again, slower. The climb to the ridge began. Loose shale slid under their boots. Thorns scraped armor. The desert air thinned as elevation rose, turning every breath metallic. Nobody complained. Not when drones couldn't reach this high, not when a misstep meant a silent fall into Black Canyon below. By the time the sky shifted from ink to dark blue, they made it. The ridge. Their firing position. From here, the world stretched out below them. The stone compound. The white Toyota Hilux. Guards by the courtyard walls, rifles slung lazy, wind tracing invisible rivers across the valley floor. Hale set the Barrett on its bipod. Granger radioed command. Encrypted. Calm. The JTAC synchronized with the drone overhead. But Aria wasn't looking at the target. She watched the mirage lines dancing above the sand, the way air bent light, the way wind whispered warnings most people never heard. Granger's voice broke the silence. Hale takes the shot. Aria nodded. No argument. But she already knew the truth. The wind wasn't steady. The valley was shifting, and one wrong decision up here could echo for years. The ridge went silent. Sergeant Lucas Hale lay prone behind the Barrett M107, cheek pressed to the stock, breathing in steady counts. Below, Faris al-Nader emerged into the courtyard, speaking to 2 guards beside the dust-stained white Hilux. The Barrett wasn't the ideal weapon for this distance, over 2 kilometers, but the requested TAC 338 never arrived. This was all they had. Target confirmed, the JTAC murmured. Send it, Granger ordered. Hale exhaled, squeezed. The suppressed shot cracked like distant thunder. 3 long seconds later, a puff of dust exploded low left of the target. But al-Nader didn't dive for cover. Not yet. The shot hit before anyone could trace its origin. Confusion froze them for a heartbeat. Hale adjusted, his voice tight. Wind shifted. Aria, still spotting beside him, spoke low and controlled. Negative. It's cycling. Wait for the lull. He didn't. Pressure, pride, and second slipping away, he fired again. Stone shattered high right. This time the compound erupted. Guards yelled, scrambling for cover. Al-Nader disappeared behind a wall. Radios crackled. Someone shouted coordinates in Arabic. Cease! He's moving! Granger hissed. The drone feed showed al-Nader being rushed toward a vehicle. Apache gunships were still 20 minutes out. Hale muttered, frustration in his voice. Wind's breaking all over. Can't get a clean read. Aria spoke, calm but cutting through the chaos. Staff Sergeant Granger, request permission to take the rifle. Silence. Even the wind seemed to pause. Hale turned, anger flashing. This isn't your... She didn't look at him. Eyes locked on Granger. Sir, if he leaves that compound, we will not get another shot. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Captain Monroe's voice crackled through the comms, cold and final. Granger, make the call. Granger's jaw tightened. He nodded once. Hale, off the rifle. No argument this time. Just silence. Aria slid into position behind the M107. The metal felt warm under her hands. The world narrowed. Breath, reticle, heartbeat. Through her scope, Al-Nader reappeared, stepping back into the courtyard, believing distance made him safe. He was wrong. But he wasn't alone. No cheers, no fist bumps, just silence. Aria kept her eye on the scope as the recoil faded from her shoulder. 3 seconds later, Faris al-Nadir fell beside the white Hilux, dust blooming beneath him like smoke from an invisible fire. His guards froze, then panic. Too late. On the ridge, no one moved. Hale lowered his spotting scope first. His voice was barely more than breath. Direct hit. Granger didn't speak. He just let out the air he'd been holding since dawn. They broke down their gear in silence. No one questioned her. No one doubted her. The hike back down the mountain was brutal. Sun blazing, muscles burning. But the weight on her shoulders wasn't lighter. It was simply accepted. Back at FOB Ravenfall, word spread faster than official reports. Not about the distance, not about the weapon, but about the Marine sniper who waited for the wind when everyone else panicked, then took the shot no one trusted her with. Within days, something shifted beyond rumors. IED attacks along the southern convoy route dropped to 0. Patrols started moving again. Command called it a tactical success. The men called it luck. But those who were on the ridge knew better. That night, Aria sat alone beside the HESCO barriers, tracer rounds glowing faintly over distant hills. She didn't celebrate, didn't sleep. She just sat with the truth. This wasn't victory, it was responsibility. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Patience and breathing. Everything else is just noise. Only now did she understand. The hardest part isn't taking the shot. It's living with the silence after it. Because respect doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes when doubt goes quiet. And in that quiet, she learned something simple. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's pulling the trigger while fear is still in your lungs.